Okay, hold on. The stream just crashed. Let me pull up YouTube Studio. Make sure I've got, is this the same link? Do I have to put a new link in? I do have to put a new link. Get shareable link. Earlier stream crashed. Alright. Okay. Whatever. Right, we're back. I got the stream, or stream's back up. I always come back. I don't know what the hell happened there. That was weird. I'm not really, nothing happened. Like, it just crashed. Anyway, what I want to get at is towards the end here. Yeah, it's this specific line. So for years I have had this line in my head as it's written in this exact video. Yeah, stream crash, I restarted it, we're back. It's been closed for years though.
Yeah, we're gonna try to contact the original restaurant owner.
But I want you to listen to what Phone Guy actually says in the video here.
I think the name of the place was Fredbear's Family Diner or something like that. It was closed for years though. I doubt we'll be able.
Did you hear that?
Fredbear's Family Diner or something like that. It was closed for years though.
So that's what's been on my mind. The line Phone Guy says is not. It's been closed for years though. It was closed for years though. Now let me pull up. Oops. This is here. Let me see if I can pull up exactly what I want to check. What the official Ultimate Guide PDF. What are the official? It's towards the end here. I don't have the physical book with me. Oh, that was personal information. Whatever. Okay. So let me find Phone Guy transcripts. Phone. Yeah, even the official thing says it's been closed for years, though. But he clearly does not say it's been closed.
To track anybody down. So just get through one more note for years, though. I got Fredbear's Family Diner or something like that. It was closed for years.
He clearly says it was closed for years, though. Implying it is not closed when Fredbear's Family Diner, or when FNAF 2 is set. And that's weird. Because this goes into a whole other theory, right? Let's rewind back to the start of FNAF 1. Or actually, no, it's not even in here. It's not even in Phone Guy's calls. Let me pull up actual, like, raw FNAF 2 files for a moment. FNAF 2. Where? Here it is. So you have to remember this line: vintage pizzeria given new life. That's a weird line in that context of it was closed for years though, right? What is vintage pizzeria in this context? You'll obviously the game wants you to think it's Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Right, that's the vintage pizzeria given new life. But this is not the same building as Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. This is not the same Freddy Fazbear's Pizza as the FNAF 1 Freddy's would later become / was prior in 1985. It's and all that. So it's not referring to that place because Phone Guy outright says it's a different location, right? The two different locations. They're not the same thing. So it could be referring to the brand, but it's saying Vintage Pizzeria as in the building itself. And vintage is weird because FNAF would later establish that at this point in the series history, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, like the brand with Freddy in the gang, was very young. All things considered, this is a 4-year-old brand at the time of this game, right? Like, that's weird. It's a 4-year-old restaurant referred to as vintage. And check back. This is what I wanted to mention earlier in the game. It's actually right around what we were talking about right here. We're going to try and contact the original restaurant owner. I think the name of the place was Fredbear's Family Diner. This is a weird line because I think what this is implying, in context with this line, it was closed for years though, is that the FNAF 2 location is Fredbear's Family Diner reopened years later. That's the only thing I can think of with all this information. The phrase "it was your," like, we never see a 1987 Fredbear's. Period. So it would not make sense to be that. Like, it doesn't make sense for there just to be another Fredbear's out there. So the only conclusion between all those lines is that they're the same location. This has been on my mind for a bit because it's been causing me to go back and look at FNAF 4 very, very differently. Let me pull up. Let me pull up my B-roll real quick of FNAF 4. We'll mute this. The audio doesn't really matter. What the hell is this? I don't like that. So this is kind of been the trip I've been on for a bit, right? If Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is only 4 years old during FNAF 2, the whole vintage pizzeria phrase doesn't make much sense. You don't call something that's 4 years old vintage. Period. And even in the context of FNAF 2, that doesn't make sense. And then that gets us to this shit. Then let me pull her up. This shit. And she's standing. That's Minecraft. I accidentally opened up Minecraft. Ignore that. We're going to see Minecraft in a moment. Let me pull up the frame. Because this is getting me to look at all of FNAF 4 completely fucking differently. It changes the entirety of that game differently when you remember, if you keep in mind now that the lore is establishing these are the same location. Where is... This is the frame. This is goddamn frame. She stands like this multiple times throughout the game, but then you go back and forth, and she's doing this shit. She's doing it. Right? That's why the toys are fucking here. That's what Scott was talking about. Why would the tiny toy Chica be missing her beak? She's standing here. She's standing right here, and in one frame, Chica stands there, and then the other frame, let me find it. Let me find the other version of this scene. Like the other character who appears there. No. You know who else is in that fucking frame where that scene is? Well, the answer is Bonnie. Specifically, like, I think all of the toys actually appear there, but... Well, Freddy doesn't, but you got my point. Because remember, Chica has her beak when she's on stage, and this is one of the first areas she moves to. Okay, I'm not finding it in the moment. This is the kind of shit I have to do constantly. I have to constantly look. But you probably know where I'm going with this. It's not this one, but it's one of the very similar renders like that, where she's standing right in the same spot with missing her beak. I'm not finding it. It's somewhere in the game, though. My point being, right, is she starts to lose her beak right around when she's in the area or heading towards the area that Chica will be standing in. And in general, like we know Fazbear or someone still has access to the FNAF or to Fredbear's Family Diner because of the sister location layout. God damn it, where is it? Now this is just bothering me. I don't even need the actual render because I know what I'm talking about and all that. But it's in here somewhere. But my point being, it's clear to me in hindsight that there is some intended link between how FNAF 4 operates in the present day of FNAF 2. Like, the exact events as they're unfolding alongside those two events. And I think what this is all meant to imply... Did I accidentally delete this render or something? I have accidentally deleted files before. The fact that I'm not finding it's bothering me. What is this Balloon Boy just being missing? It looks weird without him there. There's so many goddamn renders in this game I don't remember because you never get to see them with how the gameplay flows. But yeah, there's a Toy Chica version of this frame, is my point. I'll keep it at that. Oh, here it is. It is here. This one. This is what I was looking for. And she's standing like right there where it all's. Yeah, I'm all right. This has been on my mind for a bit. Now, I'm not 100% sure what the implication of all of this is. Now, there is something kind of interesting I noticed, which is, let me pull up my... Is it notes? Where did I put this? It's probably in my custom sprites. Or, no, it isn't. Maybe it's just in one of my videos. Let me check out the Midnight Motors video I worked on. Okay, no, it didn't make it far enough for that. Whatever. Back to FNAF images. Did I just, like, put it... What did I do with this? It's not here. Midnight Motors... Huh. Whatever. I was going to say, like, if you lay out save them with FNAF 4s, it's not a perfect match, but there is, like, a general shape that overlaps between the two games. Is kind of what I was getting at. So let's keep that in mind. So we now have established, right, that Freddy... This is not even, like, a theory. This is straight up just what the original game was saying. Which is that Fredbear's Family Diner is the same thing as FNAF 2's Pizzeria. Or at least that there is another Fredbear's Family Diner in 1987. Like, that phone guy just straight up says it. It's just not even, like, ambiguous. It's literally just a incorrectly translated line that even the official manuals mess up. Or not translated, incorrectly used line. Like, that's not what he says. They've genuinely, like, I don't know if this is a retcon or what, but, like, this is not the line in-game. The line in-game was, it was closed for years, though. Past tense. So this has been on my mind for a bit. The only problem, this is where I've been kind of bricked so far, theorizing-wise. And it's kind of why I want to do the stream and, like, chat about this a bit. What is the implication from that? What is the point of... Right, let's say that FNAF 4's... What I've kind of concluded myself so far is that FNAF 4's minigames, this specific set of sequences, are set right alongside the events of FNAF 2 as a game. It's kind of FNAF 2 Fredbears, but we're going a little further than that. And so, like, that's why this shit is manifesting, and that's why this is here. It's like, I think that's what the implication is. And T-Pose Girl with Withered Chica, and you have the fact that our goddamn second friend Fredbear is teleporting around, just like Golden Freddy does in FNAF 2 Save Them, and in general, he does that too. And then you have the plushes hidden away, far away from the main stage in the corner, all that. Like, there's a lot that weirdly overlaps the more you look around in this game. The just implication is why. The pizza place sandwich, I think, is not intended to be honest. I think that was a mistake, premise-wise. Because I don't think I don't think the FNAF 6 pizzeria was meant to be the buried pizzeria in Security Breach. I think that was one of Steelwool's assumptions because Scott didn't explain Edwin's existence to them. Because if like now we have the prototype Freddy's in Edwin's location. I think that's what was meant to be the buried location the whole time. But it was scuffled, and now it's weird that it's like multiple things. And I straight up don't think Fredbear's has ever been the FNAF 6 location. I mean, maybe there was like an idea to that at some point, but like I've been dwindling on it more and more. But there's another like point I'm getting to this, because this is creating a lot of interesting conclusions. So there's something I've been thinking about. I don't think I have the minigame for this yet on my channel for my B-roll. 6 Security Puppet. This has been on my mind too. I've actually like been doing a lot of research that like uncovers a lot of me. So let's go outside in Security Puppet for a moment in the sequence here. Specifically this shot right here. Does it just cut that way? It does cut that way. That's a little annoying. That actually slightly hinders a theory I was working on, that it just cuts that way. I could have sworn... I want to bring this up in FNAF 6 now, though, myself. Because I'm not... I don't remember... I swear there was a front door. In Secure Mammoth, there's no prototypes of Withered Chica. There are, though. There is a prototype Chica. Not of Withered Chica, but of Chica, correct. This is really loud. Why is it laggy? Why is it like? I'll continue. I probably have enough money in the save file to lock in Security Puppet. Oh, no, not yet. Okay, well, whatever. We'll play some FNAF 6. Oh, this is probably... Why is it laggy? What the hell? Is it Clip Studio? Why lag? Why are we doing this? Whatever, I'll just play with lag, I guess. That sucks, but I'll do it. Like, this is like, you can run this game on like 4 gigabytes of RAM. It has no reason to lag on my fucking 32 gigabyte computer. whatever. This is the most efficient way to make money. To speedrun the point I want to make. We're just going to speedrun a little bit of FNAF 6, so I want to look at something myself. Just make sure this is how this is meant to work. God damn it, I'm an idiot. I haven't played this in ages. Because I swear we could see the front. It's just like a door, though. It's not like anything special. Whatever, I didn't lose much. I think roughly 2,500 is what you cap out with this game. Well, I'm curious what the hell my new video is going to be, too, because I haven't... I'm split on it. It's been bothering me. That... Big gumball swivel hands. I need to unlock the next thing so I can get to this point. Because once you get the goddamn basketball, but that's right. So while I'm doing this, let's think about this premise some. So there's clearly some link between FNAF 4 and FNAF 2. I mean, it's really obvious in hindsight because of all the 87 shit in FNAF 4's lead up, and I think that's meant to tell us that the present in heavy quotations day of FNAF 2, or a FNAF 4's minigame specifically, not the nightmares, the minigames, are in 1987. I think is the implication. What I'm split on, though, and what I can't quite seem to figure out myself... oh, we might be able to get... Oh, okay. That's literally a perfect run. Let's keep going. But okay, so there's some link to that. But what's the point of it? You know, like what's the narrative Scott was trying to... What was like the bit it was supposed to lead to? Yeah, I think the minigames... Well, I think it's meant to be synced up that the bite in the bite victim's experience links up with the bite in actual 1987. So I think the implication of FNAF 4 was trying to say was that this kid, like, affects the real world in some way, even though he's been dead for a while. I'm getting that. I'll get it in 1983. Well, I'll just explain it now, I guess. I don't need to wait on it. The TV saying 1983 is supposed to show us that the... Because I want to make it clear, I'm not saying that the bite victim died in 1987. I'm saying that he died in 1983 originally. And the current minigames we're playing are the versions of events that are being sort of altered by the pizzeria changing around where he died. Is how I would phrase it. So because things keep changing in the place where he died and all that, the events are changing themselves. Right? So the original 1983 is correct. Like, our assumption there, I think, is correct. I think Scott was just too ambitious with the idea. So the idea would be that past Fredbear, right? Just bit the bite victim, that's all there was to it. Flash forward, however, 4 years, and the bite victim's reliving those events. And history is basically repeating itself. Like that, until whatever's going on with the bite victim is sort of fixed, nothing's going to be correct, is kind of what I'm saying. Yes, it's original events are... Original events 1983. The version we're playing through is like him as a ghost way later.
return to Candy Cadet again, and maybe I will tell you a story.
And Ralph outright phrased it in the week before. It's like the World War happened, then it happened again. It's like we're not really going for like literal one-to-one things. We're kind of going for something a little weirder here, because I think, because Scott was very clear there was something about.
Restaurant is now officially open.
I just realized this was the first ever day of the week. I only have one risk, so I should be good. I haven't played through FNAF 4 in ages, so. Or FNAF 6. I would eat the actual candy that gives me. He's just a candy dispenser. He's like a weird cursed one, but I'm assuming the candy is fine as long as it's not a gumdrop angel situation. But like I said, it's kind of, as Overmean phrased it, it's like a start of the trauma situation where it's like the loop keeps going. It's like this is kind of patient zero of the problem. And because we're still in the same location 4 years later, things are repeating again. I would not eat candy from Ruined Candy Cadet, though. I don't even think he gives candy. But that's kind of where I'm stuck right now. It's like I've had a few other ideas I've thought of in passing, but I'm yet to like really conclude what the point is, you know? Like, okay, so let's say we're going for the repeating trauma motif, and maybe there's a narrative there that until the bite victim is saved or fixed or gets something that he's missing, it will keep happening again and again, and that's kind of the threat. Why, though? Like, other than that premise, where does it go?
Great job. It looks like you're getting the hang of this. Now let's just focus on getting you through your first week. There's a big party here Saturday, and you should view that day as your ultimate test. Make it through Saturday, and you will have proven yourself as the successful entrepreneur that we all know you can be.
It could be the curse's agony, but I don't.
However, your job isn't over just yet. There is another aspect to your end-of-day routine.
No, fuck! I didn't mean to do that.
Don't forget Saturday. You want them all to be in one place.
I mean, yeah, I do assume Fiona's involved in more events in the series than we think, but I don't really know what the... I mean, I kind of don't know what the conclusion would be with it, you know? Why lag? Okay, what do I... Once we get this. Oh, I don't have 250. I did. Because I guess what I'm stuck on still is what's the point of the Bite Victim's character? Why was he an important addition to the story, I guess? Like what was the what was he supposed to add? I mean, I can assume to some degree he's just an origin story for Mike. I could see something like that. But like, why tie him into FNAF 2? Like, why add this whole wrinkle that FNAF 4 is like 2 events at once? Okay. Okay. We're almost to the point that we can do the main mechanic to get enough money to do everything. It's like Are you kidding me? It didn't go in the damn basket. I'm trying to not talk about like stuff in the Steel Wool era for this stream for context. If it doesn't seem like I'm responding to stuff like that, it's because I don't really have an interest in that topic at the moment. Like I do, it's just not like in this stream, I guess, is how I'd phrase it. I mainly want to focus on FNAF 4, and pretty much the closer we can get content to that topic is what I prefer. Do I have all the trash in the game yet? I should. Oh, mark down. Well, I'm saying, it's like, Scott had this vision that FNAF 4 would be somehow the final chapter. I'm just trying to think about what about his character is so definitive in that context. Like, what... How does that work as something that adds to the ending? I don't necessarily think... I mean, even I've theorized, like, the whole, like, oh, the puppet... The Bite Victim was meant to be the puppet kind of narrative. Like, I'm aware of that, and I think there is some merit to that premise. But knowing Scott just made it clear that he was very against retcons, especially ones that were like so obvious that they kind of spit in the face of what you understand and like talk about. Because that was what you like when he's talking about the retcon issue. He isn't just saying like, "Oh, the retcon was something that most people didn't notice." Like that's the main thing people talk about and focus on. But it was more than just that. It was about like I don't want to. It was kind of like him saying like I don't want to just. You know, he was talking about like I don't want to just like make something like that just to be like weird and subversive. Even if it'd be very easy. Okay, we're a bit shy on cash for horrible. So can get... We'll earn a bit of cash from the melodies. Because each one... Wow, she doesn't even give enough. I understand why... Like... I actually ended up leaning against it the more I thought. I did make that video where I said that I'm like... But that was not quite a what-if theory, but that was kind of a... There's a lot potentially pointing to this. And I wonder if this was an idea in play. But the more I've thought about it, the more it's left a bad taste in my, like, the idea of Bite Victim being a puppet has left a bad taste in my mouth. To the point where I'm actually pretty set on the idea that I don't think it's the intent. Because like I said, it's weird for Scott to be like, oh, I don't like retcons. I don't like changing things just for the sake of it. Because there's memes people have made of like, oh, Scott just changes the lore to fuck with MatPat or whatever. However, I straight up don't think that's ever been the case. I think MatPat's just been wrong several times. I don't think so. I don't think the Bite Victim could have only been the puppet. I do wonder if that was an idea in development though. Because like I said, what I was talking about in like that video was like not necessarily that I think he was always meant to be the Bite Victim, always meant to be the puppet, but that was an idea in development that got scrapped from him because the design's weird. The design bugs me. So how can you design a character like that and not think of the sense? And that's the biggest thing for me is like I don't know what reason Scott would have to change it is the big thing on my mind. Or volume 4,000. Risk 6, that will cause things to attack. I'm trying to get cheap things that will... Oh, I guess I could have gotten the one of the clowns. Which still will do. Just want to try to cross off the list. Clown's really slow though. Alright, 2 risks shouldn't cause any problems. I do wonder if Toy Girl is meant to be like an early draft of the concept of the sister. I don't know if she ended up actually being that though in like finalized lore. Are you fucking... I've grown to be frustrated with FNAF 6 lately. It feels the most random right now. It used to feel better, I swear. once again, I just disagree with okay, I'm just gonna look up for a different video of the fucking security puppet. I want to make sure this is like consistent and I'm not crazy. Okay, no, it is. He just like fades in from the left there. That's weird. Weird. Huh. I could have sworn you could see the door from the outside, but whatever. I mean, FNAF 4 experiments is one thing, but they're two different theories. Is at work or we're talking about. We're not like the bite. What happened to the bite victim and what happened to Michael are just two separate sets of events. I think that overlap somewhat because they're stemmed from one event. Like the bite victim is explaining the bite, the original 1983 bite, and then the nightmare experiments are explaining the fallout of it. Is how I view it. So I don't think the question of what's going on in the gameplay of FNAF 4, the actual night sections, I don't think there's any questions about that. I mean, there's some, like, I guess there's the arguable question of did the bite victim have the nightmares or not, but I think that part's pretty obvious. But the question is, like, what's the point of the original 1983 segments? Yeah, Ashton summarized pretty well. I was like, what I'm thinking is FNAF 2, because it's sort of like the classic like Indian burial grounds, the hotel was built over trope. Like it's that setup. It's the bite victim was killed / mortally wounded there. I mean, he dies in the hospital later, but you get my point. And that memory's being messed with by the events of FNAF 2 is what I think is how I'd phrased it. Because it's built over the same place, and now new things are appearing there and changing things as they go, more or less. And I don't think the bite victim was ever meant to be something like the vengeful spirit, and I don't think by the final release of FNAF 4 the bite victim was meant to be a puppet, which is what we need to really theorize about. Right? I think that's what needs to be theorized. It's like, sure, there's a timeline where FNAF 4 was meant to be the origin story of the puppet, but it's clearly not the timeline we're in. So what's the bit there? What does his character serve? What does it accomplish in addition there? I do think there is something that Charlie being the one doing most of Happiest Days legwork and FNAF World being kind of separate, but there's still an obvious intertwined point to it all, you know? With how do I phrase this? You know, they affect each other. The FNAF world keeps showing us stuff that relates back to Happiest Day and FNAF 4. So there's some connection between FNAF 4, like here. The reason I originally had Clip Studio open, and let me do this so I can do a kind of conspiracy board here to relay our confirmed connections. Let me just get like a huge... do like 2K, 4K, 3K? No. Let's do 4,000, 3,000. That will work. Okay. Let's murder board this out. Let's kind of do some charts to explain this visually some, because I wanna kind of repeat some of the facts that we have down, because I think there's some definitive stuff here. The question is, you know, what's the conclusion of it? Like, what's the resolution? So let's have this visual down here, and then let's do it. Okay, yeah. Why is this my default font right now? I fully think Nightmare Experiments are just a Michael plotline. They're not really a thing. Like, there is some connection. Like I said, I think FNAF 4 is related to those beyond just obviously being. I think obviously the Bite Victims plotline has some relation to the Nightmare Experiments, but I don't think it's about them itself. It's more, like I said, why would what would cause someone to make those events? And I think FNAF 4 is kind of meant to clarify the dynamic of the family and all that, and why. No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to put it here. Let's just get some basic like assets in the game to work with. And I think Nightmare is meant to be to kind of confirm like how far into the timeline we really are at this point. Because Nightmare is supposed to be linked to Shadow Freddy for some reason, based on the other game files talked about it. So we're pretty far into the timeline when FNAF 4's night sections happen. There's a really cool point I'm going to make in a Midnight Motors video that if I ever finish that video, the main reason I've been putting it off is I had to re-record it. Or I'm going to have to re-record it, I should say. So these are all Michael things. I don't worry about them too much. These are Bite Victim things. These are things that have something to do with the minigames of FNAF 4. I'm not really worried about this section of the board. I'm focusing on this section to make it clear. Let me get some other assets and stuff in here to kind of cover what we've already done. Where's the cover image of, there it is. And I'll try and find images as I go to like convey this all and refine the list of visuals down some. Okay. Where's just a good image for Chica standing weird? Guess I'll just use, yeah, no, this will work. So we have all that. Let me start getting like a white line layer, just for connecting things for visual purposes. That. Let's. What? Why are we? Okay. Stitch. Let's get that color. Get that. So obviously everything here. Let's get. So we have this connection. Like we have that, and you know these two connect this way. That's the narrative. There is like. These two connect that's their connection. He explains who Michael is, how he gets there. That's what I think Michael's role in the Nightmare Experiment served. And then let's get like a screenshot of like FNAF 1. Yeah, here's the Mike Schmidt. I think that's what this. Actually, let's zoom this in and then just do a quick like. Doesn't have to be too precise. Just like lock it off. Mask. and all that. I think that's what this like point serves, is just to like explain who Mike is as a character. And if we want, I'll pull up a visual from here. I'll pull this visual up as like our connecting dot. To try and like illustrate the premise I'm working with here. So the bite, right? We have the bite. We have 1983. That's the lore there. It's like the origin phrase and all that becomes the same pizzeria down the road. And here we can turn the edges off on him. We don't need that effect. And we kind of do it a little bit. But I'll make it black just to help denote what's what. Okay. Let's apply mask layer. Okay. So we have this part down. So we have the fact that the bite victim is somehow connected to FNAF 2's events. Right, and that somehow links there. And yeah. And obviously here, let's take every asset I've made so far and let's shrink it down a little further. Obviously, this all has let me pull up each one of my videos so I can kind of cover them all back to back here. Just get a string grab of happiest day. So obviously this has something to do with happiest day. Right? Because FNAF World told us so. So somehow, all this shit, all this memory link nonsense has something to do with the events of FNAF 4. But what? Like, what is... That is our end destination. I guess, yeah. I guess there's kind of a memory victim, a kind of shatter victim thing going on here. But it's like... That's not enough for what I'm talking about here. Because, yeah, we can just say, oh, he links to the kids, and then that plays into how they're able to move on, or whatever the fuck. And FNAF 2 is heavily referenced. What is FNAF 2's deal with Happiest Day? That's a whole separate thing to talk about here. What do they have to do with each other at all? Why... If I pull up every single goddamn minigame, and I think FNAF 3 was already kind of suggested. Bite Victim, or not Bite Victim, Balloon Boy, FNAF 2 reference. Mangle, FNAF 2 reference. Chica, FNAF 2 reference. RWQ, FNAF 2 reference. The only one who is not a FNAF 2 reference is Fredbear, who, as we've established, is still connected back to FNAF 2 because it connects back to the bite victim's death. So there's something. If I full screen this just to get a good screenshot of it. Let me get one. I hate this thumbnail. So there's something to this bit. Like there's a connection here we are supposed to make for some goddamn reason. Just why? I've been beating my head against a wall with like this whole problem and question. Here, that screenshot will do. Okay, let me get one for each happiest day things, because the fact that they all do connect back to FNAF 2 itself is so conceptually alarming. Depending on what the intended interpretation even is. Alright, got that. I need Balloon Boy. That'll work. Alright. And the main reason I'm doing all of them is to really emphasize how it's like this goes all the way down to here, but all of these, they go back to FNAF 2. And obviously, let's grab blue. Make that our happiest day color. Yes, we've already concluded this early in the stream because it's stated by phone guy. It's just not been documented very well. Well, also, Happy State can't happen in FNAF 2 unless Happy State doesn't free souls. Because then if Happy State doesn't free souls, what the hell does it do? Why is the visual of them, the kids disappearing and the mask being left behind? It could be, yeah, that the bite victim awakens in 1987, and that's like part of the point. But then what's the point of him awakening? What does that achieve narratively? Because like I said, to kind of clarify each section of this a bit, I feel like Michael's role in the original story was just to explain the physical events of the gameplay. Who are we as a security guard each game, and why do we give a shit? That's what I think Michael's whole thing is. I think the bite victim is part of the spirit plot line that leads to Happy's Day. The question is just, what does he add to that storyline that wasn't... That makes sense as a conclusive narrative? Like, what does it finish? Yeah, obviously the bite victim was a confusing character. That's pretty well established. Because if you really tally out Michael's character, the fact that he's seen Shadow Freddy implies he's done more than just what we've seen in the games. Clearly, because he wouldn't know Shadow Freddy if it was purely the confirmed appearances he's had. Shadow victim? Maybe with RWQ, but then why does RWQ look like Toy Freddy or Toy Bonnie? I mean, he can go from one world to any other, but then he's still around. Okay, here's the one. This is the biggest like brick pick with the Toy Bonnie connections and RWQ. RWQ still exists in the present day of FNAF. He's still around in FNAF AR. We're kind of theorizing about FNAF 4. It's more just an interesting revelation I had with some of the FNAF 2 audio that heavily implies FNAF 2's location, the 1987 Freddy's, is Fredbear's Family Diner reopened later on. Like there's a dialogue line that if you actually listen to the audio itself, not the transcripts most things make for it, it straight up almost says word for word like that they're the same location. I mean, FNAF AR did affect lore, though. As much as people wanted to write that part of the series out, it had lore. It affected things. The lore doesn't just get deleted because you can't access the game right now. And there's this super strong, when you really lay out how much of FNAF, like if FNAF 4 has heavy connections to FNAF 2, that the whole 87 thing, the whole bite, the fact that there's all the allusions to FNAF 2, the fact that they're the same goddamn building, he clearly has something to do with FNAF 2. But what in FNAF 2 that makes that make sense? Hapset shut. I don't know the answer to that question, and that's not actually the topic at hand. I mean, yeah, the bite victim could be both shadows, but even then, it's like, why can they exist without him? Is the main question there. Because RWQ appearing in FNAF AR does not make sense if... I don't know. And also, I do think there is something, because if you listen to Shadow Freddy, or if you listen to Nightmare's dialogue, it doesn't suggest he's the bite victim, really. He doesn't talk like the way this kid has. He doesn't talk the way the bite victim talks in FNAF 4. There's not really a reason he would be like. Remember, if he's supposed to be the bite victim saying to William, "I am your wickedness made of flesh," does not make sense. So I don't think he can be Shadow Freddy, or at least he can't be Nightmare. And then there's a question of what did Nightmare and Shadow Freddy have in common or connected at all? I do think Agony Beings is the better fit for at least Shadow Freddy, if not also RWQ. The other question is why Bonnie? What does the bite victim have in common with Bonnie aside from William being connected to Bonnie? The other thing I thought of, and I think if the idea is that the version of FNAF 4 we know is like the altered, like I said, the burial grounds concept. It's the version of events that originally happened, but it's been going on. Like the fact that the pizzeria is back has sort of disturbed the burial grounds. And is digging up these memories and feelings and changing them some because history's repeating itself. That's kind of the idea I've been going with. Right? Well, my conclusion from that would be is if the bite victim being bit is what triggers the bite of 87 to happen in the present of 1987, then that would suggest that the bite victim's memories cause things to happen still in the present day. And the week before will end up kind of backing that idea later down the road. And that does add like an interesting threat to his character, that he can be sort of dangerous without even meaning to, if the wrong memories and feelings are triggered. And I feel like the week before is really trying to hamper on that idea. Yeah, I could understand if it was if there was like a unique model to RWQ and that model lined up with like Springtrap or something like that, I would agree with the idea that he could be RWQ somewhat. However, what the hell does he have to do with Toy Bonnie specifically? Why Toy Bonnie of all characters? If it was literally any other character, I think that would make sense. And also, RWQ isn't the violent personality either. The RWQ is the one that helps kids. It just happens that helping kids involves murdering adults. Or at least that's what they want to happen. So I don't think it's like a Jekyll and Hyde situation where there are two different personalities of the same entity. I don't think that makes sense either. I think if I were to phrase it, it's the DC, kind of what Cross Corps is talking about. That it's something created Shadow Freddy, if maybe the bite or Charlie's death. And then the dead kids in FNAF 2 are what create RWQ. That's what I would say that connection is there. Let me get RWQ on the board himself, actually, because he is the interesting point of this whole discussion. He's one who definitely needs the goddamn. So, if blue is our FNAF guess I'll use the blue thread on him. Okay. We have him on the board too now. Let me move him down, actually. Or move him up. That's a little bit more visually clear, I think. And I also think Shadow Freddy's more in the physical narrative territory rather than the spiritual narrative. I'm also going to chuck him in the corner as just like another thing in what I would call like the red line, right, is our physical arc, our physical set of events that happen and things respond to. I feel like he's in that camp of the story specifically. Whereas RWQ seems to be a bit of a question mark. He does have physical presence in some degree, but he also seems to be more in the camp of like, what should I call it? Trying to find the visual. Here it is. And once again, just do a quick mask over him. And there we go. That's just a little easier to see. Okay, then let's get the line. Boop, boop. Nope, wrong color. Boop, boop. So yeah, so because like Shadow Freddy doesn't do anything to the Happiest Day narrative. I mean, he dismantles the animatronics, but he himself doesn't like physically do much. Because he's one of the only things that's not in Happiest Day sequence at all. Which would be really weird if Shadow Freddy had any connection to like, right, like there's no these two things don't connect. Like he doesn't connect to the bite victim in any way other than being mirrored to Fredbear. And he doesn't connect to Happiest Day at all. We never see him in Happiest Day. Which is strange. If he was meant to be the bite victim, you'd think we would see him in Happiest Day. And Shadow Freddy is connected to Afton. We do know he tends to show up, and he tends to show up physically too. Is the interesting thing to all of them. It's not like that he. You know, I did just think of one thing, though it still doesn't make much sense. Sorry, this is ADHD brain just kind of coming off there. I'll finish my Shadow Freddy thought. The Shadow Freddy thought I have is we never see Shadow Freddy in any of the weird surreal minigame stuff. It's always Follow Me, which is a retelling of physical events. Seeing him in FNAF 3's office, seeing him in FNAF 2's back room. It's all stuff like that. It's never like a weird spiritual thing with Shadow Freddy. Unlike RW, who gets plenty of weird soul shenanigans shit between FNAF AR, his like resurrection moves in FNAF 2, or in FNAF World, his weird like floatiness in FNAF 2, his weird floatiness and minigame glitching in FNAF 3. And I think that part's safe. I think locking those two to those narratives is a safe call because there's no reason to push them further. And yeah, it's also true, like, the nightmares in general seem more related to William, and William himself is more related to the physical aspect of the story than anything. So I think, like I said, we can kind of cut off this branch from trying to make it fit with this branch too much. Okay, to finish my thought on like what I think Toy Bonnie might be, this is the only way I can connect Toy Bonnie to the Bite Victim, and it's a really jank fit. So if we look at over here, if all of these toys are meant to be the toy animatronics, and we bring up FNAF 3, obviously in, this is not a great visual for this concept, but it's here. The one time we see RW physically in FNAF 3, where's the other one? Where's the model? Here, model of what I'm talking about here. Is where, and this kind of gets into a, like, how real. Why are they on the same layer? Oh, it's because I'm manipulating the wrong layer, that's why. Right? It's this freak. There's, and he's even more Toy Bonnie-like than his original appearance, mind you. Like, if you look at this model, he straight up has, like, this spindly neck and everything. And let's bring you up and probably increase the contrast in this layer so he can be even goddamn seen. Oh, well, that didn't achieve what I wanted. There we go. That achieves what I want. You can see him now. So if we go down here, I guess we make this the RWQ layer. Because he's his own fascinating tie to the puzzle here. It's like, what is his bit in all this? Because, like, what I'm wondering is it possible the black figurine is literally a toy, is literally like this toy that's been corrupted for some reason? If you're wondering when these show up, this figurine shows up in FNAF 3. It's how you unlock the RWQ sequence. This visual is from the clue hallway in also FNAF 3. It's how you learn to get the black figurine. This is the only time RWQ's not been purple in terms of his sprite representations too. Which, to be fair, he's only been represented once, so it's not really a big achievement. He's actually changed colors quite a bit. He's either pure black here. He's purple in FNAF 3 minigame. He's got the green glow of the office in FNAF 3. And then he's blue here. And there's the question of, like, what are these physically? Are they even physical things or not? Like, is the RWQ figurine real? Or is it a mechanic thing? Is it there for gameplay for us to find a secret to do a thing? Oh, I should probably, here, if I'm going to be going with this logic, I should probably... there. But it's still not actually a black figurine. It's not like this figurine itself is black and discolored. And why would that figurine be there? Yeah, I know. I'm wondering if what are the shadow cupcakes too? That's another good question. Like, are they real? I mean, no, I was about to say, like, oh, that would mean that every one of these little figurines connects to something from Happiest Day. But this one doesn't connect to anything. Like, this little Freddy figurine. He doesn't really line up. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, huh. I mean, he does look sideways the way Fredbear does in the minigame. I guess there's that connection, but he's not the same color. Plushtrap's the other weird thing on all this, because he doesn't connect to anything in... Like, any narrative, really, plot beat, Plushtrap has no real connection. He's kind of an outlier. I feel like the original premise of Plushtrap was to explain more Michael shenanigans, but I don't know why he's in 1983. Or if he's not in 1983, if he's another one of the altered things caused by the burial ground premise, what does he represent? Other than the spring locks existing? Okay, here's my pitch. I want to think about this before I continue what I'm about to say. Here's my pitch for what Spring Bonnie's figurine represents. It represent... Okay, let's say that the girl's playground gossip, right? The one pigtail girl on the playground. her saying they stuffed me in the studio the night, let's say that's part of the battleground concept. That gossip and rumor is tied to FNAF 2's gossip and rumor. Because Phone Guy mentioned there's all kinds of rumors and stuff floating around about the location. Let's say that's the manifestation of that. And let's say that let's say that's like an implication there, is that whatever the kids are talking, like the kids themselves are altered by the future events. And that's like the toy figurines represent stuff like that. The fact that the one kid looks like Balloon Boy and looks like the FNAF, the Happiest Day Balloon Boy. Let's say that's what's representing there. Then let's say the kid having the Spring Bonnie plush helps us understand that the spring, because remember, in FNAF 2 we didn't know this part really yet. So the idea of going back to clarify some the spring lock timeline. It's like the spring Bonnie's already dangerous and condemned by the events of FNAF 2. That helps us cut off the idea that the spring lock failure happens. It helps us timeline place a bit without stuff like the week before or Into the Pit. Because if in 1987 Spring Bonnie's already considered dangerous, then that means the FNAF 3 phone calls have already happened by the events of 1987, which then means we get to corroborate our timeline that the spring lock failure and all that happened in FNAF 2 prior to FNAF 2. And you do get plushes of characters in FNAF 2's challenges, which is also worth noting. Nightmare Balloon Boy being in Canada, Scott, is something I can't find any goddamn quote for, by the way. I've heard that phrase for years, and I don't necessarily disbelieve it. I just don't know what the source is for it. As for Nightmare BB, I have no fucking clue what his point is. I genuinely have no clue what he adds to the lore. Well, I can tell you what he adds to one specific string of lore, but it only makes sense under the context of whatchamacallit? Under the context of Halloween mode. So if you break down the roster of FNAF 4 Halloween Edition, it's Bonnie, Chica, Mangle, Puppet, Golden Freddy / Fredbear, and Balloon Boy. And that roster in Halloween Edition is the same roster as Happiest Day. It's specifically Mangle, specifically Fredbear, Chica, Bonnie, and Balloon Boy. That's what I think the Halloween Edition thing is. It's just like a Happiest Day reference. It's just elaborate, combined with some Halloween-isms. Because what a lot of people forget about Halloween Edition is that Nightmare Yawn only replaces Nightmare. Fredbear's still in Halloween Edition. He's like the same in both Nightmare Fredbear. As for what it means to the base game, it's just another FNAF 2 connection for some reason. The reason we've been beating around the bush this whole time. What the fuck is the point of FNAF 2 and 4 being connected aside from one causing the other? And also, they all have goddamn nightmare version or phantom versions. What is the Phantom's fucking role in all this? Because they, once again, our Happiest Day roster is the same as the goddamn fucking Phantom roster, except Bonnie. Never mind. Shut up, me. That doesn't connect. Oh yeah, Nightmare Freddy's also the same. But I don't know what his role in it is. Both even-numbered games, that is correct. I actually do like the theory that Halloween mode is Rory's Dittophobia, because he says that Foxy is... when he sees Funtime Foxy, he says it's colored the same as his Foxy, which would be Mangle. If Funtime Foxy from Sister Location is the same color as Rory's Nightmare Fox, that would be Mangle. Or it would imply Funtime Foxy is red, for some reason. So I actually do like that theory a lot. He just doesn't have Nightmare on, I guess. Um, uh, and that would even explain the non-canon comment, because we now know Tales is its own continuity, so I could see it as being a thing that, whatchamacallit, that it's like that's the version of events from another timeline, right? That's Rory's version of the rooms, and that's how they're different. Um, and it might even imply that's like what the physical nightmare rooms might be like, and they might be modified in Mike's version of events. I could see something like that. Um, but let me just think on this for a moment. So we've established the idea that the past is repeating itself because of the bite victim, and in turn, that his past memories affect the present as well. Him being bit in his memory of 1983, that happening and him re-experiencing that, causes another person, adult or whatever, to be bit in the present day. In turn, what would happen if he affects stuff that way? Could he do something more? I think is almost what I almost wonder if that's what we're supposed to be thinking about in the bite sequence. I think you're meant to revisit this bite with the knowledge that it's affecting the bite of 83 or bite of 87, and start thinking about, well, if he can cause a bite of 87 because he experienced one in the past, what else can he do? And I almost wonder if that's the point of the bite victim. But then again, how does that work? What are they doing to him that causes him to change things later? This kind of is the premise of God Victim, of like, he's such a prominent force, whatever he is or represents or manifests as, that he can change things based on his past experiences, and that the present in turn affects him, and it's a back and forth tug of war almost. Um, Does the safe room represent anything? Does the bite being locked in the back room? Oh, here's an interesting order of events. Does the bite victim getting locked in the back room represent Golden Freddy being sealed in the safe room? The days don't really add up for that, though. I know, I agree. It feels like there's something here we're missing. Like I feel like there's some narrative piece here that's supposed to connect to these threads together. Like there's something obvious about FNAF 2 plus FNAF 4 that just clicks. I mean, yeah, I do think Bite Victim is connected to FNAF 4. I mean, to Golden Prey, I think that's... I feel like the bite makes that pretty clear. It could be William locked in the safe room, yeah, but he's still around in 1987. That part doesn't make sense. If the bite is synced up to the bite of 87, it would have to be a little after. It would have to be around the events of FNAF 2, or at least the FNAF 2 phone calls. You know what's fucking... Actually, this is interesting. Hold on. There is some interesting FNAF 2, FNAF 4 stuff in the logbook. I don't really have the visuals here, but on one of the coupon pages, it says take a bite out of fun on your next birthday, and one of the coupons is for happiest day. Way later on, there's another coupon that says grand reopening, join us at the new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And that's the one that have Cassidy and Mike's comments on it. And that's also a few pages away from Fredbear's comment, which is in the Mr. Fear, think back to your childhood. Do you have a stuffed animal or blanket that you took with everywhere? What about an imagining friend? Write about them here. I don't tie anything Secret of the Mimic to anything in the FNAF kind of 2 plotline era. Aside from very literal things, take a bite out of fun is what I said, not Bon. I don't want to touch anything aside from like that very obvious literal things like the order of the companies being acquired and all that. I don't see why there's a point to try and draw the Mimic and David into the missing kid plot line. I'm not going to call it dumb. I don't want to talk down to that idea that much, but I really dislike that premise, and I don't think a lot of connections actually make sense. I don't know how I feel about the mass-produced Mimic theory, because that entirely hinged on a few lines from the week before. Or not the week before, from the Tales from the Pizzaplex epilogues. And those are their own continuity. So I don't have anything there. Yeah, I think the Mimic arc, while it is in the same world and has some minor effects on the lore of the original series, it's all stuff like on the corporate side. And a little bit of background about William's actions. I don't think any of the Mimic plotline is meant to explain this kind of narrative. I don't think they are one ongoing story. I think they are 2 storylines in the same world. That is an interesting point. Because, yeah, the bite has to be after Jeremy's shift, which means Jeremy's work week has to be roughly night 5 of Jeremy's shift is like night roughly 3 of FNAF 4, more or less. And then if we scale that out, then that would mean the bite victim's death syncs up sometime. That actually links up with something I've been talking about. Actually, that's an exciting revelation, Jaxolotl. That's an exciting... Okay, this is something I wanted to talk about. But what happens at the end of FNAF 2, right? At the end of FNAF 2, where's FNAF 4? There it is. right, this is the final sequence of FNAF 4. What happens here? Let's go through this dialogue. We have the original events. I think this is where it ends. I think in 1983, that's all that happened. Then in FNAF 4, then we have this sequence here, right? Where it's like, you're broken. I think this is present day Golden Freddy talking. We are still your friends. Do you still believe that? I'm still here. Because, like, Psychic from Fibber's really trying to convey to the bite victim that he's not alone. And then there's that promise, I will put you back together. And I don't think this is a bad ending. I think what this scene is trying to convey is the kids leaving FNAF 2's pizzeria and him finally being freed from that loop. Right? I think this, like I said, lines up with the events of FNAF 2. So this would be the toy animatronics getting scrapped and the missing kids taking the bite victim with them, I think, is how I'd phrase it. Like, leaving the pizzeria, he's finally no longer stuck in that loop and cycle. And that's why he ends up blind in the survival log, because he's no longer where he used to be. He doesn't have memories for new stuff. I think this is the moment where he truly, like, meets the other kids and leaves with them. I wouldn't call it being freed. I would call this being taken away from the cycle. And I think, because think about this. This dialogue line's interesting, right? Do you still believe that we are still your friends? Why does Second Friend Fredbear keep repeating that? Don't be scared. Like, why does he keep saying, don't be scared, I'm here with you, etc.? Like, what's the point of reassuring him besides just being comforting and nice? And why that specific phrasing, we are still your friends? Do you still believe that? Well, if the bite causes the actual bite of 87, what do you think happens if he doesn't view the animatronics as his friends? I think that's the implication here, is that if he doesn't view the characters as his friends, they go berserk. Because think about what's happening if this sequence lines up. The loop doesn't need to go until FNAF 3. It just needs to go until 1985 for Spring Bonnie to be deemed dangerous. I think that's all it needs. The loop doesn't need to go until 1980, all the way until like the 2020s or whatever. Or earlier, depending on when FNAF 3 is. It just needs to go long enough for Spring Bonnie to be deemed dangerous as a finger trap. And that's it. I think that's the implication, that if the bite victim ever views the animatronics as dangerous, that's what causes what FNAF 2 is talking about, right? Because remember, Phone Guy has this whole monologue about how none of them are acting right. And if this is synced up, if these kind of memories are synced up, that's what I think that implies. And also remember how Scott specifically called out, this is a little later, but this idea still stands, that Foxy always being active in FNAF 2 is not an oversight. I wonder if the implication is because Michael is the most aggressive in the loop, that's why Foxy is different, and why he's the most aggressive, why he keeps showing up, and why he jump scares the way he does. I was talking about in whatchamacallit, I think that whole thing that's being talked about at the end of the game, like the you still think viewers are friends, etc., and all that, is like trying to calm down the demon in a way. Like if he's let loose, it just unleashes the worst the characters can offer. The Baby in Darkness pizzeria, similar to the file name I'm Still Here. I think that's just trying to imply to us that the baby plotline's not done yet. I mean, it kind of connects to this. He does say that. And I think the reason the characters are fading away is because they're not in the pizzeria anymore. And Psychic Friend Fredbear saying, I'm still here, is its way of conveying to him, like, we're not dying. Like, it was just, we're still here. Like, I'm still here, you can still talk to me, we just need to be in a different place. Yeah. I could see it being a baby connection. The sort of just question is, once again, why? The Elizabeth bite victim stuff is so strange to me because there's a few times where it seems kind of compelling, and there's several times where I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how the hell would those things be related? Because if Elizabeth is supposed to be like super hard coded to the bite victim storyline, and that's the conclusion we're supposed to make, why does she never mention that a single time? All of her dialogue revolves around William, like all of it. There's a few things where she mentions like Elizabeth, like reflecting on like that as baby and all that, but and yeah, it's like you can argue it's like, oh, if Shadow Victim is correct and the bite victim split across the missing kids, and then baby puts the missing kids back together that imprisons the bite victim, like there's that, but she never mentions him once. It is my biggest gripe with that premise. If she's so important to that narrative, you would think he would be part of it. There's the hidden question mark at the yeah, okay, it's in the here, let me pull it up because I'm pretty sure I know what that's referring to. So, hidden in this see, there's a question mark at the... This was right after FNAF 4 came out, which is the end, thanks for playing, and there's a little bit of question mark. Which implies there wasn't... Even when FNAF 4 came out, it wasn't definitively the end. Like I said, I see some of the connections with Elizabeth and that whole Happiest Day stuff, but it's strange that she herself never seems to acknowledge or mention any of it. Oh yeah, that's also interesting. The Crash Masters that say it's like the... Yeah, oh, and thanks for the $10. I didn't even like process. I just saw them like, oh, yellow message. That's fun. That's interesting. And then I just thanks for the $10. But yeah, it is. I was kind of talking about it earlier. It's also interesting that FNAF 4, nothing can hurt you while you're looking at the bed, except for Foxy, obviously. And Foxy is the one who jump scares you from the bed in FNAF 4's cycle. I mean, yeah, Michael and William don't mention the bite victim in sister location, but this location also has the spy cameras on FNAF 4's bedroom, and also Michael has references to him elsewhere. Especially, you know, in FNAF 4. Yeah, Crashmaster is the real Yellow Eyes, guys. I'm sorry. We threw this whole lore away. We found the real answer. I don't think the Bite Victim's trying to do it. I think it's just a quirk of how his existence works. Like, it's kind of like classic ghost lore of, like, they might not necessarily all be evil. They might just be triggered by certain things happening. You know, it's like... Have you ever seen Dan to Dan? If you, that series does a great job explaining the ideas of ghosts and how their morals and ideas can become corrupted without them being evil per se inherently. Well, yeah. So William has the more obvious connections to the Bite Victim in the form of the situation, like observation room, and Michael has literal dialogue lines referencing the Bite Victim. So, and even then, William kind of has the connection of the whole "I will put you back together" or not. I put her back together just like you asked me to. Dialogue line inferred from Michael's speech, but Baby herself never says anything like that. Yeah, Dandan does a great job explaining. That's kind of how, if you know how Evil Eye or Turbo Granny or all that works, or Acrobatic Silky, that's how I viewed like the Bite Victim. It's not that he's actually an evil person. It's the fact that the idea of like his soul's just rotted so long that the emotions get left out of control and lash out at things. I think that's a reach. The whole like spiel about pretending. I feel like that's more about Elizabeth being different from the other characters in this moment. And yeah, the whole tomorrow's another day thing is kind of attributed to William, sort of. Unintentional God Victim is a funny name for the theory. Call it Evil Eye Victim? I don't know. Yes, my favorite anime is Five Nights at Freddy's, the one where Michael bullies his younger brother for being quirkless. And then he grows up to have the greatest quirk of them all. Alter reality, bitch. That's the name of the quirk. It's spelled out that way. It's on the official government forms. Divine Harness Victim. That's actually a good one, which is why we can't use it. Here, I think if I were to call this theory something, it would be Oops, All God Victim. I think that's the name I'm going to call this. Here, let me just try and make sure. I don't know where this file is going to save, and I don't know if it's like... Because there's sometimes where I'll just save a file that has... And then I'm like, oh, that's a legal document that I have in a file when I was editing or whatever. Or not editing, I was filling out. Let me put this in images and put it in my notes. Oops, all God Victim. Alright. There we go. Screen should be visible again. Yeah, you can't use it if it's actually a good enough name. It has to be a little silly and stupid. Hmm. I wouldn't call it devil victim because that implies too much conscience and awareness, which is not really what we're talking about here. And once again, like, the bite victim is not even... I don't think he's intentionally doing any of this. I think it just happens with his presence. Dark God Victim would be funny with all caps, but I feel like there's a way to push that gag even further. But what would the phrase be? Eyes are closed theory? Maybe, I don't know. Let's get back to the topic at hand. Because I feel like there's still something here. Like, I feel like it's close. Like, I feel like we're getting somewhere. And this also puts a clock on the bite victim's character that he has to be freed to prevent the cycle from repeating. Because he's a ticking time bomb for things dying. God damn it, victim might be. Oh yeah, what can you see? I can't see. God damn it, victim might be. Unintentional divine influence victim is also really funny. I would... maybe I'll make a video where I just put all of these back to back to back. God damn it, victim is pretty good. I think that's going to be the keeper. What the fuck is the point of the clocks? That just reminded me. What the hell is the deal with clocks? Why does that matter? Yeah, I think Andrew is the other good example. But Andrew doesn't actually want to hurt anyone, but his presence in things causes them to hurt things. Or not necessarily his presence in things. His agony causes them to hurt things anyway. I do think it is the time limit. Like, they're running out of time might be the visual. And it could be, yeah, my grandfather's clock with the puppet could be the connection there too. That is the puppet's theme, so makes sense. And this does add to, like, what FNAF 2's bit is, like, what's its purpose. I have been wondering, is it possible the DCI kids are the kids in FNAF 4? Not the bullies, to be clear, not these guys, but these ones. Like, these entities, right? Or the kids dying has caused them to appear here as these. Like, and that's not to say there weren't kids originally there, but it's more to say that these kids have, like, appeared there and are changing things. I mean, Toy Girl could be Elizabeth. She just have to be actual 1983 Elizabeth, not present day Elizabeth, if that makes sense. If I did that theory, but I'm hesitant on it some. Like I said, if the idea is, like, there were things here, but they're being affected and kind of bled into reality-wise. I almost do wonder... Here's an idea I just thought of. This kind of goes into the clock a little bit metaphorically, but not super literally. Can happiest day only happen at certain points of the bite victim's loop? for example. Is that why Fredbear's Family Diner is important? That's why it's the setting of Happiest Day. It's like, if you're not in the right part of the cycle, it doesn't work. Is that a possibility, narratively? Like, what's thoughts on that? So yeah, the code name for the theory is Goddamn the Victim so far. There is a theory about the puppet traveling to multiple spots to find the by victim. I think that is interesting too. I almost wonder if... Yeah. And the puppet's final destination is FNAF 2, potentially. That's interesting. But the FNAF 6 kind of overwrites that, though, is the problem. Oh. Yeah, it could be that, yeah, Baby is kind of, like, leaking into... Maybe that could explain what the deal with, like, Pigtail Girl is like, she's a few different... like, if... They don't... None of them even need to be literally any one person, but rather things that happened over time that have just kind of crept in. From what I understand, yeah, God Victim is kind of reverse dream theory, so... I feel like that's still a bit of stress, though. Like, the whole baby, Pigtail Girl baby thing. Or maybe less so with Baby, but more so, like, her dialogue color being the same. Because there's not, like, a point to that, really. Like, you would have to say, like, oh, well, Sakia-san as Elizabeth, and then you have that, but then it's like, why doesn't she talk to him like a human being? Or like, in any way that conveys Baby's supposed role with it? There's so many... I can see the vision, it just doesn't click for me. I can also, yeah, there also is kind of a bear vengeance thing to it. I think Pigtail Girl's dialogue is mainly meant to represent... Yeah, but Pigtail Girl doesn't promise to put him back together, is the problem. Pigtail Girl doesn't say anything about that. She just doubles down on his fears. And she doesn't talk to him like they're siblings, like... And all that. And the whole see you at the party dialogue line doesn't make sense in the context of either Psychic Friend Fredbear, because he's not there at the party, or Elizabeth, because she would see him later today because they live in the same house, presumably. If they don't, that's never explained or elaborated on. It just doesn't click very well. I could also... That's actually an interesting idea, that the memory loop is the same between FNAF. Like, okay, here's the way I would phrase it. I think that's actually a really... The phrase degraded over time is really good. If these versions of events, right, the FNAF 4 versions, they're more advanced in art style. They're more detailed than Happiest Days visuals are typically. And Happiest Days them after decades of like decomposing and being more and more messed up. That like these are the same things. This sequence right here with all the kids in grayscale is the same as the bite in the memory loop, but it's trying to fix like the loop. I could kind of see the point, Compiness. I just don't. I don't think it's a solid connection. It's a little bit of a reach to me. I've been trying to be very cautious of trying to manifest a theory I want to have happen lately, because I felt like there's times where I've done that a bit. And that's part of why I'm taking so much time with some of these theories. Sure, it's like Dark Souls. I don't even know in what way. Yeah, I could see something like that. That like he might not have even had the other kid plushes, but they've just like those might have been things caused by the missing kids appearing. A lot of the Elizabeth speaker stuff makes sense if you already assume it's true. The problem is I don't. I want a little bit more than just assuming it's true and trying to connect the dots afterwards. I would want something that feels like, how do I phrase this in like a respectful way? I want a moment with Baby's character as Baby or Elizabeth where her dialogue suggests her goal is to help the bite victim. As Baby, as Elizabeth, as we know her. And I don't really feel like there's a moment like that, because everything else goes circular from there. Is my problem. Everything else is like, oh, psychic from Fredbear is Baby, therefore this and that, and just trying to loop it back that way. I do think Dream Leak could be the best name for the theory if we weren't doing something silly, but goddamn it, Victim is so much funnier that I want to run with it. I mean, I guess we don't need to overcomplicate it too much. I mean, it doesn't... Not every step of the way needs a connection here. I do think there is an idea to the... Yeah, the idea of a clock. Like, a clock goes in a circle. It's the same thing happening at certain times over and over again. It just goes around and around forever and ever. I think there is an idea to that narrative. Like, the visual of the clock is a way for us to understand that it's something happening at certain points in time over and over. Yeah, it sometimes is a story. A story is just a story. I think there doesn't need to be a grand conspiracy maybe here. I think we've already maybe uncovered enough if you combine this with a few other theories. So let me give a pitch for a video, right? A timeline I would outline. So original events, right? In 1983, the bite victim gets bit, and there's a week leading up to that. 4 years later, though, that memory has been looping over and over again. And then you start getting things like Pigtail Girl, like the rumors of the missing kids happening. You get stuff like Plush Trap, or the plush Spring Bonnie plush, which goes from being just a normal plush a kid has to being a finger trap that's dangerous because Spring Bonnie gets sealed away. Right? And those are small parts of things degrading. Things are just changing a little bit by little bit. And then you have the events of 1987. Phone Guy talks about how the place is being opened up again. It's the old pizzeria, the original restaurant owner and all that. And then the events of FNAF 2 start unfolding. And then the Mangle toy, and then Mangle gets broken, and then if there was a Funtime Foxy figurine in the past, that gets broken in response. And that's what the Mangle in FNAF 4 is. And or we see this appear in FNAF 4, and it wasn't there at all until the Mangle existed. And then right? Then we have stuff like Toy Chica taking off her beak, and that connection right there. And that is what it's meant to convey to us, that like these two things relate. Wither Chica doing her weird arms out pose when no one else does is to help us like link these two concepts together, these two things events. And the whole teaser, right, of 1987, 1987, 1987, 1987, and the FNAF 4 lead up is to tell us that these two stories run parallel. And what it concludes with is the bite. And then this bite is meant to teach us how the bite victim works as a character. He is this never-ending clock to disaster. If he ever gets back to the bite, shit's going to go down, because that means an actual animatronic is going to bite to recreate and kind of fulfill this moment. And why Psychic Friend Fredbear keeps repeating, "We are still your friends, don't you believe that?" All that stuff like that, that's all Psychic Friend Fredbear trying to avoid the inevitable. Like, if you don't think of us as enemies, if you think of us as friends, then that would mean you aren't dangerous. You won't kill us. You won't hurt us anymore. And from there, right, you have the end of FNAF 4, the post-bite fallout. And you have Psychic Friend Fredbear repeating to the bite victim all that, like, we're still your friends. Do you still believe that? Trying to calm him down because of what happened. And we are now in the void. This is where, in the bite victim's loop, he dies originally. That's what really did happen, was that he died. But Psychic Friend Fredbear, whatever that entity correlates to, whatever it is in the real world, whatever you want that to be, identifies that, like, things are changing, things are happening. And then that brings us to the start of FNAF Worlds, right? So what's actually happened in reality is that the toy animatronic, like the bite of 87 has happened, FNAF 2's location completely shut down, the toy animatronics are scrapped. That's why everything goes away and fades to black, because that location's gone. What was Fredbear's Family Diner, what he was trapped in, is broken as a cycle, sort of. And he's taken away from it to stop the loop. So for the time being, we have won. He is no longer a threat to people, exactly. Fredbear's locked in the back room. There's no... And I think that might be why Golden Freddy shows up so rarely in FNAF 1's era onward. If he ever does show up, that's game over. The bite victim is intrinsically tied to the trauma of that thing, and we cannot wake that up. Don't wake the baby. That was a FNAF 4 teaser, if you didn't know. It was for Halloween edition for Nightmare On, it was Don't Wake the Baby, and it was the image of Nightmare On behind the bed. But point being, right, like, he is this dormant, ticking time bomb that is kept at bay as long as Golden Freddy's in the back room. And as long as Golden Freddy isn't around too much, we can avoid the bomb. And time passes, then Follow Me happens. And that's where the start of FNAF World lines up. That's the whole, like, something went very wrong. I won't let the same happen to you. I think that represents all of, like, what I was kind of talking about before. Like, that's the animatronics getting dismantled. That's what's went wrong. That's the bad timeline. We don't want that to happen to the bite victim, because he is so unstable and already broken. Who knows what would happen if he was broken further. And now we're on this 30-year break period where William's dead in the back room and the loop's offline for a while because there's nothing to trigger it again. And until, like, 30 years of this happening, like, everything is so broken, just as there's, like, Mangle slowly leaking into Happiest Day. Yeah, Markiplier also says, like, don't wake the baby in FNAF 2 as a thing. And that's what it's a reference to. But I'm just saying, like, that's just my analogy. It's the phrase, like, don't wake it. He's this ticking time bomb you cannot let out. Now the puppet's working on trying to finish it, like trying to actually free all the souls after all this time. And I think why FNAF 3 is important in the original narrative's context is that Fazbear Frights has found enough of the original everything, like enough of the original animatronics, enough of the original heads and all that, that there's enough that that Charlie can do things again. She can actually try to fix it. Right? So now, in this super fucked up weirdo version of the loop, right? The cycle the bite victim exists in. That's what these Happiest Day minigames are. Is like they're this incredibly broken, janky version of the original timeline. And she is doing her damnedest to try and fix everything. Now, there is a few like gaps here I'm still not 100% sure. Like, I'm not quite sure what the breadcrumbs are for him to help him find his way. I do wonder if Michael's an important part of this process. I think this might actually be how we link him back. And this all depends on how literal the arcade cabinets are. Let me put in a new stop point on our timeline. Let's put there's a specific image I'm looking for. And I could see Charlie just being stuck wandering around trying to fix everything for ages, but never making progress because there's nothing left to fix. Right? Okay, so this will be our visual for the events of FNAF 3. And then we have... What is that? Oh, it's I now. I changed some of my shortcuts a while ago for a new art tablet I got, so I'm a little lost on... Okay. So now everything's finally coming full circle narratively. So... Right? We have Michael, who is one of the few people tied to this original event, and we have him back in FNAF 3 setting, which means we have now enough of the original event to start the loop again, and maybe enough for him to finish it. Maybe he is what we need to leave breadcrumbs for him to help him find his way. I wonder if that's what that's referring to. Because it technically doesn't need to be the bite victim. It could just be here, let me 3. Right? So now we have so I wonder if what we're doing in FNAF World, pieces are in place for you. All you have to do is find them. Yeah, I know there's a clusterfuck of a board. And I always interpreted the bite victim being kind of the characters in FNAF in Happiest Day. And I think there is a narrative to that. But I'm just trying to like, what does that specifically mean here? I mean, the logbook doesn't really change a lot here. Like, not a lot of the later content does not override this narrative much. It's part of why I say stick to try and solve what it meant originally, if you can. Because often I find some of the best solutions I do think the breadcrumbs might be the clues for the follow me mini games. Like that, because I mean we make the number, we don't make the code, you know. 39523, and then then we put the figurine in place, and we put Balloon Boy in place, which you think of that, and we get the cupcakes, which are the activation for the minigame. We don't put Toy Chica in there. We put the cupcakes. So I do think what we're doing in FNAF World is we're creating the anomalies in FNAF 3 that make the game possible. Which I guess we are doing arcade theory then. And we don't set up Happiest Day at all. Happiest Day is always live, which would corroborate the idea of it being for the player of FNAF 3. Yeah, the logbook just adds to this. The logbook just teaches us Cassidy's connecting to all of this some. Yeah, and there's no hint for Happiest Day because it's always active. Happiest Day is there from moment one. You just have to know about it. But that would make sense if this was for Michael, because Michael was there for the original version. He was there for this. So him already knowing that connection would be fine. Yeah, I do think the logbook is like an awkward three-way therapy session between Mike, the Cassidy, and the bite victim. That's how I would phrase it, yeah. And the logbook just kind of corroborates all of this. It just sort of repeats the idea that the bite victim, when he's not in whatever his sort of not comfort zone, like this discomfort zone of Fredbear's is. That might even explain why he hates Fredbear so much in FNAF 4. He hates being there because it's where he's the most unstable, and it's where he knows he's going to die, and it's where he knows the problems come from. But anyway, if that's like the narrative there, right. So what was I saying? I feel like I lost track. Oh yeah, survival logbooks. Like all it does is it helps reinforce to us like Cassidy's involvement and all that, and distinguishing them as characters. And it also teaches us that the bite victim isn't quite certain of his own history anymore. Like, the party was for me. It was for you. I wonder if that, like, goes to, like, the memory degradation loop concept. Like, he's not even sure if that's what really happened or not. Because it's just been going on so long that even he's not sure anymore. I mean, yeah, but it is, you have to find them. That is true. That's the line. That is the one wrinkle to the line being for, like, the pieces are in place for him. All you have to do, you have to leave breadcrumbs for him. That does. I think we're almost there. I just need to refine the bite victim's role in this at the end of the time, like the end of the story. Yeah, Mike victim genuinely exists just because MatPat was impatient with the logbook and didn't wait out to solve it properly. I mean, that's a little bit being mean to phrase it, but what I mean is, like, rather than wait to really solve every part of the logbook, like the fox figure and all that, or the tally marks, it was just like, well, we figured this part out, that's supposed to be all of it. Yeah, I agree that I'm pretty sure Put Back Together doesn't have anything to do with freeing the soul, because it's never meant that. Even in the novels, when Michael Brooks and Carlton put things back together, it's just making them no longer broken, distorted versions of themselves. it's not it's not really whatchamacallit. Uh it's not really anything about like freeing a soul. So um here got it. Okay. Kind of. I got another piece of puzzle. Remember, putting something back together is not freeing it. I think at the end of FNAF World, we have put the Bite Victim back together because we put the memories back there. They're broken as fuck, weirdo versions of the events, but we put them all there. The pieces are in place for him. He's there. He's finished. He just needs to actually finish the damn timeline. He needs to experience it again. So if he starts reliving the memories again, the minigames become live again. Like, they can happen again. That's how we're able to do things in FNAF 3. It's because he's reliving the timeline again for the first time in ages. Now, like I said, they're glitched fucking weird versions of the events, but now they're live to be altered again. And now that's what we're doing. That's what the gameplay of FNAF 3 is he's creating the minigames again, he's creating the events and scenes, and because those affect the real world, if you can change the minigames, you change the real world. If you fix how the Bite Victim fuse all these characters and things, you fix what really happened. So I think what we're doing in FNAF World is, like I said, like fixing the Bite Victim so he can fix everyone else. If the loop is live, you can do anything. The order of the minigames is Balloon Boy, Mangle, Balloon Boy, Toy Chica, Fredbear, RWQ. Which in FNAF World would be clock 1, clock 2, clock 1, clock 3, 4, 5. I do think that is, like, I think Jacksaw is kind of correct. Like, once everything is back there, it's now so diluted and so weird that anything is possible again. And I think that's kind of what Happiest Day is like, if we rewrite his trauma with a happy party, it kind of undoes the loop he's trapped in. Which in turn changes not what really happened, but what's currently happening. Like, if the Bite Victim affects what the animatronics do, then him no longer seeing them as threats, him truly believing that, once again, it goes back to what Psycho Friend Fredbear was asking about, like, we are still your friends, do you believe that? Do you still believe that? It's like, if they can make that true, if he can view them as his friends, then it's done. It's finished. There's nothing there anymore. They can move on. And yeah. Um, And yeah, it's kind of a wholesome ending. He just finally actually believes they are his friends after all this time, and that's what finishes it. After being so afraid to have them as his friends this whole... Because, I mean, if this was your last real memory, meeting these motherfuckers for 30 years... I think I'd understand why he doesn't actually think of them as his friends, maybe. I mean, he does, but he doesn't, you know? They need to actually change the events from his point of view to fix it, I think. And I think that's what it's all going for, is we need to fix the loop itself. And also notice how it ends when the puppet is here. There is no puppet in actual FNAF 4. There's no... I mean, the bite victim's kind of the equivalent because he has the striped shirt, you can argue. But... you know. And yeah, the missing kids are also... not psychopaths, I'm not going to say that. But they're not... They can be scary. They can be scary at times. It's because, as I said earlier, like with Dan, like the idea of like a spirit not being per se evil, but being so corrupted by the feelings they're trapped in that it's stuck that way. They're just stuck hurting and hating and feeling. And if he can grow up to the point that he can view these people as his friends, which in turn affects the missing kids, obviously, then that fixes things. It ends the cycle of trauma and hate, basically. It's basically 30-year-long trauma and therapy. And all that. So I think we're most of the way there. There is some minutia questions to be asked, like who is literally in each one of these positions here. Like, is this Cassidy in this position? Because it's clearly the bite victim's memory. But yeah. But I almost wonder if those exact details even matter at this point. I don't know. That's what I'm split on. Is this bite victim receiver or is this Cassidy receiver or what? Or are they the same thing in a way? I think in a way that's the same point. I don't think that changes very much. Because if you have this be Cassidy replacing Fredbear, it's still better to have it be a friend who's Fredbear than actual Fredbear the animatronic. If you have it be the bite victim, it's him accepting what was going to happen originally if the bite didn't happen. It's the same thing. And if you wanted to do something with Ultimate Custom, that does kind of go into what Overme is talking about. It's like, if this concept of the looping memories exists that just stored over time, that could maybe explain Ultimate Custom Night somewhat. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. I feel like everyone wins in this timeline, though. It feels more complete as of FNAF 4's events than anything else. Because, like, right, we have Mike's story and his arc. It kind of has a conclusion in the end of him in FNAF 3. But it still uses him more as a narrative vessel than anything. I feel like he gets a little bit more of an arc with the follow-through of the games onward. But whatever. And I do think we can do a thing of like the bite victim is Fredbear walking to the lake, right? Like I think there is something you can do there. Yeah, I think that as Cassiel, I think that is kind of the point of like if he's no longer afraid of the animatronics, finally it kind of breaks it as a cycle. Now, the one thing I feel like is still it feels like it's here, but we don't have the answer yet. And I feel like we're most of the way there. The last kind of bit is what the bite victim saw here. But I do think we can kind of infer some of it. So remember how I said, like, if the idea of what the bite victim sees is that it affects the real world, I think we're supposed to see something in FNAF 4's events that we intentionally dodge seeing to prevent it from happening. Like, I think if I were to phrase it, it's like, let's say it was the adult grabbing him and dragging him away. Well, if his experiences affect the real world, that would cause an animatronic to do that to a kid in real life, and we don't want that to happen. Not saying it's literally his but I'm just saying, if it's something like that where it's like whatever he saw, he can't see it again, so to prevent it from happening is how I'd phrase it. The question just is what did he see? Because I'm now trying to spitball ideas for that, because I feel like that's the last piece to kind of, that's kind of step one and will become the storyline that will loop later. But I wouldn't worry about it too much. I think this is actually pretty good progress for a stream. It feels like I was able to help get some spitballs and ideas in the chat. And the name for the theory, I guess. God damn it, victim. Yeah, I'm still split on exactly what he saw, because this does make that more important of a sticking point than your kind of common timeline. And this would also explain why Scott was so pissy with the fandom for not understanding FNAF 4. Not pissy, but like, you know, the conclusion of the fandom when FNAF 4 first came out was, this is the bite of 87! That's it! That was like everyone's takeaway from FNAF 4. It was just the bite of 87 story. And that's not, that kind of ignores a lot of the work put into this and the greater meaning of the story. And then FNAF, like, you could see him commenting on like the initial, the first proper video MatPat did on FNAF 4 was it can't be, he assumed the FNAF 4's events were the dreams of the crime child after the bite. And Scott was just like, you missed some things. I would go back to the game. Is kind of what his comment was. And there's the 1983 clue, which MatPat just took to like say, oh, it's all the 1983, and that led to Dream Theory, which is just like a further perversion of the concept that's even further off. Because it now completely cuts off the connection to the bite of 87, which was meant to be there. And then it never gets solved. Like, it wasn't until recently I've ever seen the FNAF 2 connections and anything like that. That's just a narrative that's just dormant the whole fucking time. And I think, you know, post FNAF world, people do finally start getting the bite victim happiest day connection. So it's not all of it is there, but I could see why you would be content with that when you were frustrated with what was prior. Um, but yeah, it could be something with what's seen in shadows. Um, but because he doesn't break down crying when he sees William put the guy in Spring Bonnie suit, so it's not that. It's something that happens if we go to the stage, like the stage with the animatronics. That's the thing that that specifically is what caused the psychic friend Fredbear to be like, no, don't you remember what you saw? So it had to be something on stage that scared him. I wonder if it's the bite. If it's truly a memory loop, it could be psychic friend Fredbear trying to avoid the bite victim seeing the events early or something like that, causing it to happen or something like that. I don't know. I feel like there's maybe an idea to that. That what he's afraid of is, but why would he be afraid of them in the original event? You know, because the bite only makes sense if he's afraid of the animatronics, so that had to be real. So he had to actually be afraid of them originally in the original 1983 version, which doesn't fit the time loop theory. Like, Mike doesn't have a reason to bully him if he's not actually afraid. Yeah, Mike scared him with a bass. Could be. But the line is you have to get past them. You know what will happen when he catches you. So here's what I pitch. I don't think the bite victim was afraid in timeline 1. Let's say the original iteration of this specific sequence. If you run, you can make it. Hurry, run towards the exit. No, don't you... Okay, hold on. No, don't you remember what you saw? The exit is the other way. Hurry and leave. It's too late. It's too late. Hurry the other way and find someone who will help. You know what will happen when if he catches you. It's something specific with Fredbear. You can find help if you can get past them. You have to be strong. And we got this history. But like I said, he doesn't break down crying when this happens. It's too late. Hurry the other way. And then you hurry the other way. So I think that you have to hurry. You can get past them. I think that dialogue line is just implying he's afraid of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. So I think that line's fine. But it's... He has something specifically in his head that will happen when Fredbear catches him. I don't think that's the worst idea in history. The idea that that the body, the supposed body in the suit is caused by the memory leak. The Nightmare Chambers, nah, it's kind of a janky fit because Fredbear isn't part of the Nightmare Chambers, really. They're part of Mike's nightmares, but we don't know. There's no dot for him to appear on the map. There's only 4 dots. Fredbear's wearing purple. William is purple. Yeah, that is correct. Mostly. Maybe. What something that's harmless that could happen to a child with a guy in a mascot suit? I just realized something else here about this scene. This is kind of a neither here nor there. This is just another observation. Remember how I said every event affects the present of FNAF 2? Let me pull something up. Cause this plays into it. Just Fredbear just showing up and walking in front of people at the new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And just staring at people. Because this is what Fredbear actually is in present day. It's Golden Freddy. It's just showing up and staring at people. Talking to them in the suit, maybe. Just moving on stage, yeah. It could just be that he is. But Fredbear's lines here imply something specific will like that that he and the bite victim are under the specific impression that something will specifically happen. Oh yeah, and 4 kids in front of it, yeah. It implies that there is a specific event they are afraid of happening. But, God, it's even in the same perspective. Like the weird feet. Like the weird way the feet are drawn. Like the weird semi-quarter angle there. I suppose it is... I really want to say it's a spring lock failure. But... doesn't make perfect sense. That idea almost makes sense, but there's some obvious flaws to it. I guess there's no one else in the pizzeria, so I wonder if what happens, right? He's crying, right? So if this adult tries to like pick him up and take him out of the building while he's crying, I wonder if that could cause a minor spring lock failure. I mean, there's only there's only a few days between this event and the party. And according to FNAF 3, according to FNAF 3, there's a time delay between the spring lock failures and the shutdown of the suits. Phone Guy says specifically, after learning of an incident involving the spring lock failures, they have been deemed unsafe. It's specifically, here's the thing, the line that's bugging me here is very specifically, I think a lot of people's answers are glossing over. Now, this is what's sticking in my mind right here. It's, God damn it. You know what will happen if he catches you. But like I said, in FNAF 3, it stated, after learning of an unfortunate incident in the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the spring lock suits have no longer been the classic suits have no longer been deemed safe to wear, and they will be retired to an appropriate location. So if he's crying because he's afraid of the man cornering him, and he's just generally afraid of the animatronics in the original version of events, and then his tears from being like left behind or whatever, it is though. The FNAF 3 found tapes, they are from... I'll bring it up.
Built with one extra room. After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suit temporarily unfit for employees. Safety is top priority at Freddy Fast.
Yeah. This is the only reaction I can think of that's, like, scary for a kid. What the fuck? Is that even I don't think... Doesn't it monetized have a Z in it? Whatever. I don't think so, but whatever. That's just distracting me. But no, the multiple simultaneous spring lock failure quote is from FNAF 3. This is on Night 4 specifically. It's also the night that Fredbear appears in the game with Odin. Boo, fun bonus. Yeah, I could see it as him being afraid of the missing kids dying or whatever, but that... Yeah, and he's only afraid of Fredbear. When it comes to Spring Bonnie, he doesn't seem to bat an eye. He's not afraid of the kid with the Spring Bonnie plush. He's not afraid of... He's not called out as being upset around it like he is with the figurines. It's specifically the idea that Fredbear catches him and something bad happens that scares him. And the only thing I can think of is that this game is setting up a spring lock failure. No, because this is why I'm saying it wouldn't cause the shutdown, because it's delayed. After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location, the company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees. So there's a time delay after learning of. They didn't know about it when they were running the suits in Freddy's, that the spring lock suit failure had happened, and they learned about it later. And if you think about this timeline, if the order of events is that in the original timeline, he gets caught by Fredbear, his tears cause like a minor spring lock failure that like shuts down some of the suit but doesn't kill him. Or maybe it does kill him. Maybe it does. I don't know. It doesn't really... That difference doesn't actually matter that much here. We know you can survive long enough to escape, so it's possible. Because he's not afraid of the Fredbear plush too. That's true. He's afraid of the guy in the suit. And Psychic from Fredbear seems to be afraid of him too, which implies it's real. Or like whatever the threat here is, it's real. Psychic from Fredbear doesn't act that scared of anything else in the game, including Mike. With Mike, it's all calm dialogue, but here it's exclamation points. Like this is genuinely something that freaks Psychic Friend Fredbear out. Which, if Psychic Friend Fredbear was like Golden Freddy or something like that, would if the events correlate, Golden Freddy being afraid of the idea of a spring lock failure would make a weird amount of sense. I mean, I didn't finish what I was saying. The timeline would go like, this is 3 days before the party. So in the span of 3 days, they would have to report this incident and get the restaurant shut down when there was a big scheduled party that everyone knew about already. And we know from FNAF 2, they'll keep... That's fucking it. We have one more thing scheduled. A birthday party. FNAF 2. They were already trying to shut down the location in FNAF 2 but they couldn't because they had a party left over that was already booked and scheduled. FNAF 4 would be the same way, or Fredbear's would be the same way. They wanted to close the place down, but they couldn't because of the birthday left over, the Bite Victim's birthday. And then when the bite happens, everyone's freaked the fuck out of that, and it gets drowned out, and Freddy's the pizzeria doesn't learn about it until it's too late. That's the whole premise. If they have a birthday, they draw it out. That's another FNAF 2 connection, weirdly enough. I'm gonna drag something up. But I think that would. I think that's what I would go with for a video. Is the spring lock failure idea. It does. That is also true that the DCI report seems to happen. Let's pull it up. Phone calls. Why is this Bing and not the game? I want or YouTube itself.
Oh, see, I told you your first night wouldn't be a... hello? See, I told you you wouldn't have any problems. Did Foxy ever repair the hallway? Probably not. I was just curious. Like I said, he was always my favorite. They tried to remake Foxy, you know? They thought the first one was too scary, so they redesigned him to be more kid-friendly and put him in Kids Cove to keep the toddlers entertained, you know. But kids these days just can't keep their hands to themselves. The staff literally had to put Foxy back together at the end of every shift. So eventually they just stopped trying and left him as some kind of take-apart, put-back-together attraction. Now he's just a mess of parts. I think the employees refer to him as just the mangle. Okay, before I go, I wanted to ease your mind about any rumors you might have heard lately. You know how these local stories come and go and seldom mean anything. I can personally assure you that whatever is going on out there, however tragic it may be, has nothing to do with our establishment. It's just all rumor and speculation, people trying to make a buck, you know. Our guard during the day has reported nothing unusual, and he's on watch from opening till close. Okay, well anyway, hang in there and I'll talk with you tomorrow.
It is. So yeah. It is kind of funny how FNAF 1 implies he doesn't remember Foxy's name. I wonder if Scott just didn't have the name for Foxy when he made that phone call. Because the Foxy was a decently late into the game addition in terms of how he was finalized. But yeah, that would mean potentially that adds another thing to the list. But once again, the one problem with the time loop thing for explaining what the crying child is afraid of is he still needs to be actually afraid of them originally. So he would have to genuinely see the future here, which maybe. I can't say it's not it, but it is a kind of wrinkle in the timeline some. The Springlock failure thing, here's what appeals about it to me as a premise. Like I said, the night 4 is the night that the whatchamacallit, the Springlock failure tape is mentioned in FNAF 4 or FNAF 3. And that's the night with Fredbear as your minigame. So, and that's also the night with 395248, which is the hex code for purple backwards. I mean, Scott stated that he knew he wanted to have the runner character for ages. He just hadn't decided on between a beaver or a fox or the name yet, and obviously you wouldn't call a beaver foxy. So I could see it as like he knew he had the runner character and had that recorded, and then just didn't specify. Whatever. Yeah, he could just be afraid of them. There's just a lot of emphasis put on it. You know what will happen when he catches you, which is the main sticking point in my mind. Oh yeah, he was also going to. A wolf was another contender. There was like a bunch of weird animals that he was rotating through for what would be in Pirates Cove. Um, but hmm. Yeah, like I said, I don't think the springlock failure here would be lethal. It would be enough to have the suits deemed too dangerous to actually use. Um, it is how I think I would interpret it. Um, what he saw was one of the shadows. Maybe, but why would that? What does that have to do with Fredbear catching him? You know? Yeah, like just if a guy just suddenly screamed like ah fuck, like and it started shaking his arm and bleeding from that arm. If it was even just the arm, if it was even just that little amount of damage, that would scare the shit out of an 8-year-old or however old he is. We don't even know if the multiple simultaneous springlock failures were lethal. Nothing says they were. What is said about the springlock failures is that there were multiple simultaneous springlock failures, and the suits are no longer deemed safe to use. That's what's stated in FNAF 3. Theoretically, whatever the one that's being referred to there is not even theoretically lethal. It could be lethal, we don't know. I'm kind of split on it. I'm just trying to think what else could happen when he's grabbed or when he's caught, when he catches you, you know. So if he's caught by Fredbear, what could actually happen in 1983 that would scare him, but not kill him? His own father getting spring locked, but William is in the safe room. Or the back room, whatever that red room is. That's the one caveat there. Yeah, multiple simultaneous, yeah, we don't really know. Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like, the only deletable spring lock failure we know of is game timeline Springtrap and movie timeline with a question mark. I mean, we don't know for a fact that he's dead in the movies. We just assume it. Yeah, it's true that not all spring lock failures are just insta-death pain mode. And like I said, it could just be it really fucking hurt him. Yeah. Oh yeah, the buttons in the series are the most inconsistent part of the franchise. Uh, Characters bounce between the buttons they have or do not have constantly. Um, God, there's so much in this stream that I'm going to have to like watch it back to like write it all down. Oh, it could be, yeah. That he gets put in the back room if he's caught. That's actually a pretty good one. Honestly, it just scares him. He doesn't like being in the back room. He just doesn't like being forcefully grabbed by an adult and put somewhere where he doesn't want to be. If his dad's there, if his dad is William, that means being put in basically time out with his dad for a while, and he doesn't like it. Um, hmm. It could also explain like why Fredbear, Psychic Fredbear, would be so upset with that. Um, because once again, if what the bite victim experiences affects reality, who knows what that really does in reality? You know? Because the most freaked out we see the bite victim is on night 5 when he's being bullied by his brother and the bullies, and night 4 where he's like, "Please let me out, please," and he's trapped in the back room. So I could see why that would really scare him, seeing like animatronic skulls everywhere and all that. Like adults are scared of Five Nights at Freddy's in some cases, not so much nowadays, but they were for a while when it was kind of a new novelty. Um, so I could see why that would really scare the shit out of a little kid being brought back there constantly, and if that fear changes things, it would even explain why it's like. And also, he doesn't have psychic friend Fred. Knocked away the mic. That's actually a great point. Actually, I didn't even think about that. Psychic friend Fredbear isn't there. Cassidy or Psychic friend Fredbear or Elizabeth or William, whoever the fuck that character is or represents, whoever you want to say, they lose contact with the bite victim when he's in that sequence. So that could explain why they really don't want that to happen. Is because he's just afraid of that. Yeah, exactly. That point. Because someone put him in there. Someone who has either authority at the company or something like that put him in there. I do think there's something about that back room that represents something in reality that messes things up. I think there is an implication of that because it's the only time Second Friend Fredbear doesn't show up at all are nights 4 and 5. Which almost makes me wonder if there's something in that room and I think he can't do anything in night 5 because it's the actual event unaltered, pretty much. Is what I'm guessing. I'm guessing it's the freshest in his mind, so it's completely unchanged, which is why he's not there. Okay, here's why I think. I think if the bite victim's afraid enough. Remember, if the idea is he affects reality, I think Golden Freddy must go out of control whenever one of those moments happens. Right? He used to suit in the back, like now none of them are acting right, stuff like that, like let's say if he's pissed, terrified of Golden Freddy in the back room, that causes Golden Freddy to go out of control, which in turn means the spirit loses contact with him, if that's the idea, or whatever that represents. Like, it just messes things up too drastically. And that, likewise, I suspect, like, now none of them are acting right. That also goes into the idea of, like, the bite. It's like, they're just completely unstable because it's going wrong. Because if we're correct that night 6 of FNAF 2 correlates to night 5 of FNAF 1 or not FNAF 1, FNAF 4, and 4 would then night 4 of FNAF 4 would then correlate to night 5 of FNAF 2. That would be like the start of like everything's going wrong. It's not quite the none of them are acting right, but it's where things get really messy, and that's when we first encounter Golden Freddy in the game. And then that would sync up the post night 6 sequence of FNAF 4 with post night 7 of FNAF 2. Which would be animatronics getting scrapped, we have one more thing left to party, etc., the bite of 87, all that. It could be something like that, where it's like Cassidy needs to do something in the real world to get back in contact with the bite victim. That also be it. I also, like I said, I think it's just Golden Freddy becoming so unstable that it needs to do something, that it becomes violent again. Because of the bite victim's fear of it in the back room. That even could... Oh, there's another bonus point here. Another bonus point for this theory and topic. Look at how the hunched over costume is. Not only is this kind of like Golden Freddy's hunched over pose, but it's damaged. Specifically, it's broken. It's a messed up version of it. Which could explain why withered Golden Freddy is withered and not intact. If it's specifically a phantom created from this fear, or whatever that moment or equivalent is, that's why it's all broken and messed up and out of control, and why it's so much more aggressive than FNAF 1's Golden Freddy, who just appears once in a blue moon. And I think Golden Freddy just goes berserk, and then it's like, alright, well, I can't do anything until it calms down again, and the timeline resets. And that's why, like, this opening dialogue is so important, is it's like the reverse version of the Winter Soldier dialogue of, like, Red Room 28 or whatever the hell. Like, the whole, like, don't be scared, I'm here with you. I didn't mean to click on that. Golden Freddy lost his head. Yes! 4 for 4, 5 for 5, whatever the fuck number. Yes, he literally does lose his head. He literally loses his head. That's why Golden Freddy's head flies around. Holy shit, that's cool. Oh, that... I don't even know if that's fucking intentional, but that's cool if it is. So fucking cool. God damn, that would be so cool if the idea is the disembodied head in FNAF 2 is caused by this disembodied head. Ah, I love that idea. That's a headcanon, even if this theory doesn't pan out. Yeah, no, there's so many coincidences now for it to not be intentional. It is wild how much would line up if this was not intentional. There's still admittedly a little bit of jank to this theory in a few spots, but I think there's enough connections here that it's like we're onto something. Oh god, I can't. I just realized seeing this endoskeleton head as a kid, if your mind alters reality and reacts to things that way, I could imagine seeing something like this does not correlate to something good in the real world. It might even be Endo O2 in the box, like the puppets box. Like that might be what that correlates to and stuff. Wire sticking out to you, yeah. I mean, I know you were joking, but it's a great point to the theory. It's like, honestly, if Ultimate Custom Night was explained away as being Cassidy, like sort of not caring anymore because of stuff, that would be a fun headcanon. The agenda must continue. I mean, we're getting there. It's like the wires and all that. It adds up. What is this supposed to be? Is this supposed to be a chess piece? I never really thought about this, and I don't think it's anything too particular. But this is freaky looking. But I think that we've got a lot of great material to work with here. God, FNAF 2. It's so obvious feeling for some of this stuff. Yeah, I do think it's a chess piece. I think it's like a battery module and all that. Oh yeah, CIA agent Fred Orville. What the hell is my recommended? I've just now looked at it on the side. We've got my own video here. I sure hope I'm watching that. I can't even subscribe to myself. That's not even like, it's not even a quirk of the engine or anything like that. Goat Out of Hell walkthrough, 159 views. This video makes sense. This is the kind of stuff I would watch, and I think I have watched stuff like this on this channel, just like when I was researching stuff. Why would I be listening to chants like this? YouTube upload device, I kind of get that. Soundtrack stuff, these all make sense. I listen to a lot of soundtrack stuff on this channel because of video work. New Kid, yeah, this stuff I would watch. Okay, some of this makes sense the further we go, but like, what the fuck is this specific lineup? None of this stuff is stuff I've ever watched on this channel before, or like ever made a habit of. YouTube algorithm. YouTube algorithm. It must think that I love live streams because of how much I used to stream. It will just show me anything at this point. Susie in that thumbnail looks cursed. What? Susie. Oh yeah, this is cursed as shit. Is this just music? What is this? I hate this. All right. Gregory and chances and chants about Gregory. YouTube recommendations do get a bit quirky at night. Do you think Susie from FNAF and Susie Deltarune would get along? I think so. It would have to be like post chapter 4 onward, Susie, though, by the time she's really matured and kind of developed as a character. Because I could see her just being annoyed by a little kid and being like, yeah, your dog's not actually alive, bitch. I don't think Susie's ever said bitch, but I feel like she could. But you get my point. Like, they might, but not really. But it would have to be like a refined Susie from Deltarune. I don't know how Charlie death in 1987 and all that works. I thought about it. There's points that have drawn me to it conceptually. I just have never actually had a conclusion to it that made sense, so I've never really pursued it beyond that. So, I don't know. I don't know. I think this is a good endpoint for the stream, though. I think we've gotten a lot of the questions I wanted answered, and there's a lot of evidence I didn't even realize was there. Leaking to recommendation, leaking to dreams. Robot Kid.